Hello and welcome to the Detective Case
and Detective Close podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Aaron Shirley.
And I'm Brian Townsend.
Today's guest is a real good one. Guy we know from work. Been a real asset to the law enforcement community. An all-around great guy and a really great storyteller. And probably did policing in an unexpected area. Whenever you think about crime, you always think of Chicago, Detroit, LA, Baltimore, right? These really rough areas. And I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and we're doing what we usually do at police conferences, and that's, talking shop, talking police stories. And I was like, man, you guys have really done some stuff. Like, where were you policing at? And they're like, in Nebraska. And I'm like, Nebraska? Crime? Like, really? Is that a thing? But yeah.
So it is a thing.
You can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Barry DeJong, and I am retired from Omaha Police, and I work at the MOCIC as a law enforcement coordinator covering the state of Nebraska. So I've been in law enforcement, I think, my whole life. I started at about 18, started working in a maximum security penitentiary down in Lincoln. I went there to take a tour for a paper for a class project, and I thought, let's tell them I'm here for a job application, and they're not going to hire a kid. They had all kinds of openings, and they did take kids. And so I started at 18. I worked there about 6 years, up until the rank of lieutenant. I was a lieutenant on an afternoon shift, worked death row, protective custody. I was actually on their tactical team for a while too. So I got my feet wet. A friend that I'd worked with came to Omaha, and he said, hey, this is a great job. You need to come up to Omaha. And I wasn't really familiar with Omaha. I wasn't from there. I kind of grew up in a small town, 5,000 people, and Omaha seemed like a really big city to me. So I applied and later got the job. Moved up. My wife and I moved up to Omaha and started policing a city. I had no idea of the history or what the problems were. Or I knew the people I knew were convicts because those were the folks mostly on the street at the time. And so I got into the job. It was exciting. I started in North Omaha, and that is a low economic part of town. It's one of the oldest parts of town, a lot of history there, but there's also a lot of unrest. And so this was mid-1980s, and about 1988, we started seeing crack cocaine come to Nebraska and in Omaha. And it was gang members from California that were bringing drugs on the airplane. And they would set up with somebody, and usually the projects, and sell out of their house or go out on the street, and then recruit others to become gang members. And you kind of know that whole story because all of America saw that at one point with the drug shootings, and then it's robbing drug houses, and it's shootings back and forth, tit for tat shootings, and police having to do raids and search warrants all the time.
So Omaha, let's back up real quick. How big is Omaha now? Do you know? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
we just hit 500,000.
Okay, 500,000. And how big is the police department?
Its side strength is 900, and I guess I'll do a PSA for them. They're hiring, so
okay.
They probably need another 100 officers.
Yeah.
I think every department was at one point or another looking for officers, so Omaha's trying to play catch up.
So they have. Oh, but yeah,
there was a neat crime story we were talking about earlier, though, of the connection of what you think about crime in Chicago and now crime in Omaha.
But and so there's always connections. Omaha has always been, from the mob standpoint, organized Italian type crime, a neutral city. No one really could gain control of it, but we would get mobsters out of Kansas City, and Chicago quite a bit. But in the 30s, during Prohibition, there was a connection when one of the renowned crime bosses of Chicago's brother came to Nebraska at age 16, ran away, tried to get away from his family, and his little brother Al Capone, formed his organization in Chicago. And of course, the Capone family didn't know where their brother was because this then 16-year-old changed his name and actually went into law enforcement in the northern part of the state, small community around our Native American, one of our Native American tribes, the Omaha Nation. And he started fighting. They were both in the alcohol business, I guess. While Al Capone was producing it and selling it and transporting it, his brother, older brother, was actually fighting it. He became a marshal and then an alcohol prohibition enforcement officer. And the story is that Capone sent one of his hitmen down to Nebraska because this cop was raiding all of the alcohol, and he knew like the roads, and he knew when to stop people, and he was too good for the job basically, and so he had to go. And as soon as the hitman got there and found him, they both saw and recognized each other, and it was the warm "where you been, brother" embrace. "Come back, we found you."
Wow.
And so the hit turned into family reunion. But yeah, there are ties to all kinds of crimes, that kind of pass through Nebraska. Nebraska is not traditionally a high crime state. It's mostly agricultural. The population's all on the east end of the state. And we have 93 counties, and we just hit 2 million people. There's cities in the Midwest that have, 2, 4, 6 million.
Or the other unknown is how much money and like commerce is in
goodness.
this, right? There's some big names
There are.
doing business here.
There are, and one you might be familiar with would be Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's from Omaha and raised his family, his kids here, and consequently, everyone that kind of joined his investment strategy early on also became extremely wealthy. And so, and a lot of our buildings are named after people that have struck it big. We have some pretty big companies here in the Omaha area. Mutual of Omaha and Peter Kiewit in some real start
Heavy hitter, big names. Yeah.
heavy hitters.
So you do 6-ish years in working at a jail.
Yes.
How does that transition into law enforcement?
You know what?
Into patrol?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. And so I think sheriff's departments kind of get it right. And I talk to a lot of deputies that say, I didn't want to work in a jail. However, that's where you build the skill set to work with people that you're going to encounter on the street.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So you're working with the mentally ill, you're working with handicapped, you're working with con men and women, you're working with addictions, you're working with people that just steal for a living and lie, for a living, and you're kind of their keeper. And so
sounds like they've set you up for success in patrol then.
Well, but who knows?
you don't know it, right?
I didn't plan this,
Yeah.
and if I had to pick professions, law enforcement was probably 99th of 100
Yeah.
of what I thought I would be when I grew up. But something lit a fire inside, and as you had success in the corrections industry, had a knack for finding dope, for example, and that translated then in police work. And so I worked undercover narcotics for a number of years and made a lot of buys and had some really, really big buys. A lot of fun buys. And not all of them were Nebraska based. Again, the drug dealers that were coming in with crack. I remember one particular case that involved the I think it was sevens. So it was it was 21. I'm sorry, it was 21, not sevens. So it was a 21-year-old out of Los Angeles that had been recruited to earn a little extra money. They threw a lot of plane with no luggage or anything, no instruction. He brought 21 ounces of crack, and his sentence was 21 years.
Wow.
And this was back when interdiction wasn't a dirty word. Today, you can't say interdiction in law enforcement, but you can do observation and you can do surveillance and do check your facts. But ultimately, you're doing interdiction.
Yeah.
And we got a phone call out of Nevada, and we waited at the airport for someone that matched his description, and he didn't touch his luggage, and when finally he didn't touch the luggage, it was the last suitcase on the carousel. We approached. He said he had to go to the bathroom badly, and walked him into the restroom. My partner was holding his luggage, and I told him, you can't shut the door. And he sat on the stool, a little too graphic, but then he flushed the toilet and tried to push his plane ticket.
Oh my goodness.
Which tied him and the baggage together. And I remember bursting through the stall and trying to push this guy. You're in a stall that's no wider than you are, and we're struggling. Both of our hands. He's trying to push the ticket down into the swirling water, and I'm trying to fish it out.
Wow.
So that was the start, and he sat with us until we got the search warrant, which was a long process, and they disguised it with the peppers and the all of the scents and put it in a Tide box on top of all that Tide laundry detergent.
Yeah.
And we were able to
same techniques they're using today, right?
Same techniques today. He ended up being a really good kid.
Yeah.
He just was a opportunity that he couldn't push down for. I don't believe he did the full 21 years. He didn't really have a big record, but certainly he was testament to his family and his friends that you play with these kind of dice, they burn.
Bad consequences for sure. Yeah.
It's interesting. You can almost script most law enforcement contacts.
Yeah.
When you contact somebody, usually it's a bunch of lies.
Yep.
And then it's like, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Lie.
You already know it's coming.
Well,
I gotta get rid of
too.
evidence.
And officers were trained to see that. And so when those eyes are going left and right, and the breathing's now heavy, and it's just, it's almost hyperventilated breath. Everyone is uncomfortable.
Sure.
Around cops. You always hear that. Oh my God! When Dad's driving the car,
slam on your brakes when you see it, right?
Yeah, looking in the rearview mirror, you see the lights, and you're having a heart attack. You're scared of the cops. But
prior to narcotics, though, let's go back, because I'm sure you didn't start there.
No,
you started on patrol.
I did.
Okay. Yeah. Let's walk through your progression within the OPD.
So I was assigned to a 2-officer car, and with his name was Eric. He ended up being the chief of police.
Oh wow!
Of the department, and we rode together to work. We rode together during work, and then we policed together in a 2-officer car, Baker car, Alpha for one, and a Baker for two, and of course we would often get the disturbance call, because then you didn't have to send 2 units; you sent 1 car. So we seemed to get our share of those, and you build a relationship when you're working a 2-officer unit, and you get to know everything about it. The TV kind of promotes that a little bit, talking about your date life or the marriage life and problem with the kids. And so some of that's true, but what I guess media doesn't cover is the humorous times. There's police works, boring, and then real fast, and then boring. And the big times are when the hot calls happen, but on the slow times, it's like, okay, we got to entertain ourselves. And so I remember one of our first cars that had electric windows, and we're going through the car wash, and I lower his window, and you just get smacked in the face with water. This brush, he just wanted to kill me. He could bench press 400 pounds, so that kind of stuff, and then dietary restrictions, without getting graphic, were really important. You had to set rules.
Yeah. Did he have a lot more time on than you? Was he your training officer?
No, we came on the department together.
Oh, okay.
So we went through the academy, we drove to work together, and then we became
cars
for a while, for the first part of our career. And then you switch crews during shift change and work different areas. But I stayed primarily in the Northeast area for the first 4 years until an opening came for narcotics. It was a specialty narcotics unit, specialty team from a federal grant, and uh, Omaha had then 3 narcotics teams at that time, and the team I was on was to focus on repeat offenders. It's called REDOT, and that was the name of the grant. And so we tried to work on that, and that was my first exposure working with, say, the FBI, the DEA, ATF, because we worked in a task force, and kind of proud of our task force. It was at an offsite. You had from state police to county sheriffs to sheriffs from other counties working there, the federal agents. And it was so impressive that at least twice while I was in the building, Janet Reno, who was the
Attorney General, I guess,
Attorney General,
Yeah.
would come walking in. Here comes a 6-foot-tall woman with an escorts, and she's walking by and said, "You don't see that every day."
No, not at all. Wow.
But she bragged quite a bit about the task force concept, and I just want to say that was my first introduction to of understanding how much more work you can get done when you team up and work together. To me, when I saw people try to do it alone or agencies try to do it alone and they were myopic, they had to do twice the work. They didn't have all the resources, and when we started working with other agencies, they either knew the people or they had the contacts or they had the databases or they had the equipment that my department didn't have. And so we could lean on each other for that. And so that was a huge, light bulb that went up in my head. Don't try to do this thing alone.
Yeah.
Seek out others that are knowledgeable in this too.
That's the stigma of law enforcement, and it's also what's perpetuated in Hollywood, right? Is the lone cop, the lone. Yeah.
It is, Aaron, but you know what I think it is? It starts with leadership. If your leadership says we don't need anyone,
or a lack of leadership,
we don't need the police department, or we don't need the sheriff's department, or we certainly don't need the state police's help, and let's stay away from the federal government. You're really missing great opportunities to share information, and all of you might be holding pieces of a puzzle that are really going to stop crime in your area. And so it really has to start from the leader, and they have to make that decision. And if your leader doesn't, and you're not going to get in trouble for it, then you as an officer that understands, I can do a lot better if I reach across, shake someone's hand and get some help with this.
I love all your references because we're at a funny time in our lives, right? We half the people that get what we're saying, the other half like, what do you mean? It was Janet Reno. What was the crappy epidemic?
I know.
And windows didn't always have power.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're talking about dinosaur stuff in an age of artificial intelligence. So, the world is changing very rapidly. But during my career, my time, it was the technology age was not. We didn't spend a lot of money on. I mean, we drove old Dodge Diplomats with seemed like they had 6 cylinders, and we had Bob at the garage, weld some hack job electrical system on the dashboard with a welded shotgun rack to it. And, I can remember having to expedite the calls. We had to take a penny out. What's a penny, right? And jam it into the fuse socket, which was right on the dashboard. So you had a light bar that one worked and the other just was on, but the siren would work. So you'd have to pop in a penny to get to the next call. So we did not have the greatest equipment. Today, Omaha and many of the agencies around have some of the most outstanding equipment, modernized equipment today.
I think there's more of a concentration on these companies to cater to the law enforcement community. But the problem is as we all know, the budgets don't keep up to the advances in technology. I mean, we just let this conference, the National Association of Sheriffs annual conference, and the vendor area. I mean, if law enforcement had 5% of the resources in that paid resources in that building,
Sure.
how much more effective could we be? But,
Oh, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's nice to see that we have we don't have to use pennies anymore to get our lights to work.
We don't. And
However,
and other changes that would have never dreamed of
Yeah.
happening. The leadership at the time I started, would have been Korean War veterans and Vietnam and a strict military sense. And so we had to have ties, and we had to have wearing our Class A uniform all the
hats
time.
too, or-
Wool shirt, wool pants, 5-point star hat that you had to wear anytime you stepped out of the
it gets
car.
warm in Omaha.
And so a new leader would come in and say, okay, you have to have the hat with it, but you don't have to, but still have to keep the tie. We had powder blue ties. You could literally identify the food groups on there from, wearing one too long.
No one will ever appreciate what we had to go through with uniforms. April 1st, you have to wear summer uniform.
Absolutely. Didn't matter what the weather was.
Yes. October 1st, you have to wear long sleeve winter.
Yeah. With the tie.
Wait a minute.
With the tie.
What if it's hot out? Sorry, it's long sleeves.
That's right.
And there are a lot of people are losing their mind over the changes that that a lot of old timers.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
had to do it this way,
Well, but the things that's changed so much is tattoos.
Oh,
Absolutely.
facial hair tattoos.
You could
Yeah.
not get a job in law enforcement if you had a visible tattoo. If you did the military tattoo, but your sleeve covered it, and they knew about it, by God, that had to always be covered.
Yeah.
And when guys started getting sleeves and stuff, then they had to get the artificial skin-colored sleeve to put on. But tongue rings and earrings and nose rings and stuff, absolutely forbidden. And,
Facial hair.
unless
you're in narcotics or
your hair had to be short.
Yeah,
had to be a
right.
certain length. And you're right. Beards and mustaches were only for special assignments.
You knew you got a special assignment because the first week you had a goatee.
Or a patchy beard if you've never grown one
There you
before.
go.
That's for sure. Right.
So a lot of that's officer safety though, and that'll be a conversation for another podcast, and we'll ever understand that. It's like, listen, I don't want visible tattoos because now you're always identifiable by that, right? Working undercover or the piercings.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever been in a street fight before? Do you want that ripped out?
Yeah.
There's a method behind the madness of why we want to look and groom ourselves.
Oh, that's a good
Not only just the professionalism, but
That's a great point. And then the same thing if you're wearing a gas mask, for riot control, or if you some agencies you'll go in on a fire, you're not going to get a great seal with the beard and stuff. But But the uniforms changed too. We went to more of a utility pant. You're seeing baseball caps now. And just things have changed a lot. The bulletproof vest went from under the shirt to outside the shirt.
Yeah.
And the tactical vest, and the body worn camera. I mean, back in the day, we wouldn't want to have our conversations recorded.
Not that our behavior is just our conversations.
Right? Yeah,
it's all the side conversation.
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
About the foods we're not supposed to eat. Dietary
You
restrictions.
would worry that internal affairs would
take
every word you got, clip it out, and said, "You said the 4-letter word here."
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was a big training issue and change. That started toward the end of my career, but the end of my career was more command and offices and stuff. So
well, let's get back towards the beginning. You went from patrol to narcotics.
Yep.
And you work in kind of the same area, or is this all of you were on a team for violent offenders?
Covered all of the Omaha area.
Okay.
And so you were working with a task force, and so if you were on a surveillance with the FBI, and it has great opportunities. I was a spotter for the airplane.
Yeah.
And we would do the what we call a Title III in law enforcement. Those not familiar with that, wiretaps.
Listening to telephones.
Listening to phones, right. And it was equipment that had to be in a specific place, whereas today you do it off of a laptop.
Yeah.
But it was, and a lot of ours were in Spanish, and we didn't have a lot of Spanish speaking officers. So we would have to recruit from, Homeland Security. They bring officers up from the border, from, Texas.
Yeah.
They'd bring support staff up to trying to speak Spanish. And, it was an exciting time to be in law enforcement. It was an exciting job to be that. And Omaha at that time, that don't believe they have a full-time team now, but a SWAT team. But I'm dual, so I was SWAT team and I was narcotics. And so again, as crack was just coming into Omaha, we were doing search warrants what seemed like all the time. So
Yeah.
I felt like I was never going home, because if it wasn't a narcotics search warrant on, then I was, the day shift would be SWAT team to go in on those. And the more violent those gangs became, and the more weapons that we saw, um, it told us we have to go in ready for anything with these.
Yeah.
So a story that I'll share with you
Sure.
on that is, there was a part of Omaha where this apartment complex, kind of in the middle of town, was well protected. In other words, there was a lot of spotters, and they would whistle out. One time was the word if cops ever came in the area, so that any of the drug dealers, could hide their wares and works and slide back into it. We had an informant that got in. We had the warrant. It was a basement apartment. How were we going to get in there unseen to get to the lower level in time? And so, I went to a local, uh, do we want to do advertising for the store?
No,
We went
let's
to a
just say,
local pizza business that
yeah,
delivered at
there you
the
go.
time, and I borrowed the topper
for your car.
for the car, and I borrowed the jacket, and they gave me the pizza sleeve and a ball cap. They were very good about it. And so the team, I was the distraction as I drove in and acted like I'm looking for the address and so everyone was focused on me as the team came in through the back side of the apartment, snuck up to the room, and we're on communication so that we could talk, and go down and knock on this door, and it's got all locks off and down, and it's pizza, and we didn't order any damn pizza. Look, it's paid for. You either want it or you don't. What are you going to do here? All of a sudden, the lock started then clicking. Click, 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 click for that free
Right.
pizza. And just as the door started open, I kicked it, and I had my weapon inside the pizza sleeve. And so I came out with my weapon, and I'm calling the rest of the team in. And I was a adult female, that had a gunpoint. As I came in, there was a gang member, and on the coffee table was a scoped rifle. It ended up being a stolen sniper rifle that this LA gang member, God only knows what he was going to use it for. But as this team came in, I'll never forget, the woman looks up at me and she says, "I'll never order another pizza from your restaurant as long as I shall live." She still didn't conceive that I was the police. And I thought about this afterwards. I said, every police or every pizza delivery after that was probably met with righteous indignation.
Yeah, that's why we don't mention the name.
Yeah, we don't mention the name. Hey, sorry, pizza company.
And you're not gonna tip.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
love it though, because that's what we try to push, like through our next generation of law enforcement. There's like all these things we try to push. And it's like independent thinking,
Yeah.
critical thinking, thinking outside the box, right? Who would think like, hey, I'm gonna go down to the pizza restaurant, and
Yes.
I'm guessing which one it was.
Yeah.
And like borrow a jacket, a topper.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
who would think of that?
Yeah. We actually had really good luck with our business community that would loan us vehicles. So if we wanted to grab a taxi cab, they'd let us have a taxi cab. There were auto dealerships that would actually let us borrow. It was like a really secondhand.
Yeah.
And they would let us borrow cars, and we were able to make a financial relationship in renting and rotating cars out all the time.
And that's community-oriented policing.
It really
And
was.
you were doing it before it was cool and like a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. They just didn't want us to advertise that we helped,
Yeah.
so to speak. So
Developing those relationships, and that's what's wonderful. So how long did you spend in take us through narcotics into the next?
Then I was up for promotion. I'd been 7 years in narcotics and 4 years on the street. 11 years was time. And so I applied for a sergeant position. I got the sergeant position, and at the same time, usually what happens is, somebody at a higher rank has left too. So there's several promotions, and people are jockeying and moving all the time. It's very common in bigger departments. And so the person that was in Vice in the same building got promoted, and in the temporary, they moved me from my narcotics role into the Vice role.
Okay.
And then, so I had to just pick my stuff up and move over a couple of offices, really. But it was a whole new world, and we'd worked Vice before, very different than the human trafficking approach that's taken today. Back in the day, it was basically we're going to try to arrest the prostitute, and then on occasion we would do a reverse with the Johns. We would have a police officer pose as a prostitute, and uh, and I don't even know if prostitute's appropriate anymore today. I think
That's-
you're
that's-
supposed to say sex worker.
That's the problem with language, right? It's
Right.
like saying vice. What does vice even mean anymore?
Yeah.
That's old school human trafficking, probably gambling.
Yeah. But there was great distrust, and one of the units that I worked in after Vice was a problem solving unit. And we were able to literally configure whatever the crimes were that were a problem. If it was homeless, then we would pose as homeless, and we'd go into the homeless community with our shopping cart and body bug with a big transmitter with an antenna, so that the team could hear them and see the drug deals that were going on right there. There are a lot of people that prey on those folks just to whatever money they can get for free to get that. Yeah. And in the case of prostitution, what we would try to do is we teamed up with a great organization in Omaha called Wellspring that tries to rehabilitate those, put them back on the street, get them treatment, find out the mental health issues, what's caused that. And I remember approaching when they wanted nothing to do with it. They didn't trust the police. The police lie. The police falsely arrest our people. And I said, this is a great opportunity. You're going to have a front row seat, unfiltered. You get to talk to all of the guys and gals that we arrest, because we come back to a command post, and while we're debriefing and writing the reports, you can sit and talk with them. And said, well, all right, we'll try it. And so within the first 2 or 3 arrests, they knew everybody, and they'd sit in there, and then they'd say, whatever the employee's name was, they lied, I didn't do this. And then the gal says you lied. And of course, we recorded it, and said, the state statutes in Nebraska says we have to have the money or the act or both.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can say one, we can't say both. And so click, you play it for them, and there it is, $50. I want $50 to do this, and click. And they just put their head down, and they'd go back. And so the next one say they lied again. They said, could I hear the tape? Instead of you lied, you were the police.
Yeah.
And that relationship really proved to be a great tool, because we did that on the next one. They were glad to come and help. And so what they would do is they would use that as a tool to gauge if their program is working. And in turn, I would have to go and do speaking engagements there. So,
Oh, wow. It benefits them.
So it did. It worked out great.
Relationship grows, right? Yeah.
Sadly, my Vice, my stint in Vice was fairly short and interrupted quickly when we had the first officer involved death in over 25 years. We had really run a lucky streak, but a beloved officer, young rookie officer, was shot and killed by gang members while on a traffic stop. And his crew is decimated. As you can imagine, they were really upset, and the supervisor had a breakdown over it. And so we told the last guy that just got promoted, they're going to go back to North Omaha and be their supervisor. And then the new supervisor of the specialty unit that I ended up working, he was probably one of the finest homicide investigators we'd ever had. And so they pulled him from his job and put him back in homicide to work on this officer involved. And they gave me both crews at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so one was like hard charging, imagine charging buffaloes going down the street. That's what that weed and seed what team was. And the other one, of course, was grieving the loss of their officer. So it was a really tough time to bring them through that time. And what happened is I transitioned from that team after a shift change or two just into that weed and seed unit.
Yeah.
And that was our anti-crime unit. And we tried to do a lot of really creative stuff. We did what we called our checkpoint Charlies, which was from a World War II uh, action. But what I insisted on is that we had to wear our hats and we had to get out of our car. We would go to the highest crime areas that we had, shooting, violence, not the kind of places you wouldn't want to go into unless you had 2 police cars. Sure. And so I had a team of 8. And we would put a couple of people in cruisers in specific locations. We'd bring down a paddy wagon and we would stand at the corner and greet everyone. Yes, sir. How are you? Welcome to see you. People, the residents would come up. Oh, God bless you for being here. I'm so glad to see. And we'd look down and sometimes there'd be a Colt, 40 ounce between someone's legs or a Colt 45. And we'd say, please pull over. The chase was really short because the cruiser was right there to come in front of them. And we literally then would have to turn the air conditioner on if it was the summertime, and that van would fill up at about 15 or 20 minutes with warrants and people with contraband. And the feedback we'd get from the neighborhood is, please come back. Please come back. We're so sick of being overrun by thugs. So
that's another problem that we are constantly facing, right? Is the perspective or the narrative that's put out there, especially in the news, is law enforcement's bad and law enforcement doesn't help anybody. So if that's all you're fed, or if the one time your only contact with law enforcement is a speeding ticket, it's like maybe you don't think favorably of them, right?
Yeah.
No one ever sees the good side or the positive that we're doing, right? Because that doesn't sell newspapers.
You're right, Aaron. And I was seeing that after a while, and that there were some things that were happening that were bothering me. Actually, I was a supervisor working in the office, and I said to myself, I feel like I'm pulling my weapon a lot. And so I just did the hash mark on a calendar, like how many.
Yeah, it's check marks.
Yeah, check marks.
Yeah.
And in a 2-week period, I pulled my weapon 10 times just in the normal course of duty. So that told me my people are always getting in pursuit. They're always getting in foot chases. 2 of my guys were MMA fighters. They weren't afraid of anyone or anything, and have reputations of such. But I was also seeing a lot of internal affairs invitations to come up, and I said, we got to do this differently. And one of the strategies that I said is, we're going to try Barry's way. And I'm not asking, I'm telling you, we're going to try this. If it doesn't work, I'll own it. But from this point now, we're going to practice kill them with kindness, policing. Everyone is yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Everyone gets the benefit of the doubt. Everyone gets treated with courtesy. And you just see the arms fold, and the people just shake their head like, oh my God, the hard charges especially. But you know what they did? They honored my request, and almost immediately they started getting information back and building incredible relationships with informants on, hey, so and so is here, and that's there's sexual assault happening on a child here.
Yeah.
This person's got a gun. They don't need to be. And I mean, it helped us solve homicides. And then the other thing too is I saw that we were doing search warrants all the time, and so the children in neighborhoods, especially our low income projects and stuff, the only time they saw police is running after people, tackling and knocking them down. So we found someone that would donate hot dogs and buns, and I said, tomorrow everyone come in jeans and a police T-shirt. We're going to bring police cars. We're going to get the traffic unit, bring motorcycles, and we're going to let the kids play on, in, and around them. So take everything out, and we served hot dogs. It was hilarious because one guy came up and he says, "Yeah, you guys put me in jail last night." I said, "Well, have a hot dog." He says, "Thank you, man." And, that community policing, I think it's gotten lost somewhere. I haven't seen it, but what a difference it made in my life and my career.
And you saw it firsthand. I mean, we preach this all the time when we speak, and we have an informant class, and everyone's like, "What's the secret?" The secret is getting out of your car, rolling down the window,
just being a great person.
Being a person, right? And just having a conversation, saying, "Sir," saying, "Ma'am," exactly what you just said there,
and caring about the other person.
Absolutely, having a little empathy, and empathy opens up communication, and that opens up all types of possibilities. So when there is a rape or a murder or something, now you have someone who's not as reluctant to contact you, or, even if it's, hey, on the down low, at least they're making that phone call, which you would have never got had you not done that.
Yeah. And so that was a great time in my career. And then it was an opportunity. My wife, in Omaha, every 6 months was a shift change.
Okay.
Which could be really disruptive for crews and stuff. I remember mentioning to my wife, now we're, 15 years or 18 years into a career, and I've worked nothing but the afternoon shift. And, I got 3 kids at home, and they don't see dad very much because he's at court during, the daytime and gone. And I mentioned it was a shift change, and my wife says, "Is it our turn yet?" It's like, oh, right in the heart. Police work has a huge. Do you guys know what the divorce rate is for police work?
Know exactly, but it's high.
You talk about it. I don't say I can't know what the career fields are, but it's not number one.
We're not number one, but we're high.
Yeah.
It's 70%. And they've done a study in Omaha, and at that time it was about 75. Wow. And so, I loved my job so much. It was, and I had to say, okay, I got to do something different. So I applied to go into the detective bureau, and I started working in the robbery unit. Robbery had 2 crews. Now, that's not to say that Omaha has so many robberies that you had to have 2 crews, but it was a day shift and a smaller evening shift. But we also did misdemeanor assaults, and then the crew also worked on financial crimes too. Financial crimes were always a problem, but they were nothing like they are today. So you could literally balance the two. And then we were overflow for homicides. So we would do shootings and felony assaults when they couldn't handle it. And so that was just a whole new world to me. And of course, I picked a horrible time to go in because one of the first years that I'm in there, Omaha averaged, 14 to 20 bank robberies a year. And this particular year, 70.
Oh my goodness.
So you can imagine how much pressure there was to ring the bell and scream that, get something done. And I worked with some of the most marvelous men and women in the robbery unit, and they were fantastic. And again, we weren't alone because the FBI was right there with us. We worked so closely with the FBI. Sometimes you forgot what team they were on.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it was just a serial and just one guy doing 70.
it was not. It was not. But we would have those serial robbers, and we would have some people prefer McDonald's, some people prefer Burger King. Well, we'd have people that would just rob the McDonald's, and you could just map them. And about this time, we got our first crime analyst, and we didn't know how to work with our crime analysts. We thought, do we really need that? Do we need them? And the work that they put together, they'd come down with a great big poster, show you all the robberies that we've had, and then they would show you McDonald's. Do you see any? And I'm looking, I said, what am I seeing? It said Thursday. Every Thursday, they're hitting restaurants. And it's just like, I love crime analysis.
Different perspective. Yeah.
Totally different.
We're creatures of habit. Criminals are creatures of habit.
Absolutely.
There's a comfort level to that.
Yeah. So we would learn to put police cars that, junk that wasn't being driven across the street from the McDonald's that we didn't have enough cops to cover.
Yeah.
And then we would cover as many McDonald's as you could on Thursdays with our surveillance teams to stop it. So, and bank robbers were the same way. We had so much success with bank robberies.
Yeah.
And we had some real rodeos. The stories were amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something else I forgot in your resume. I don't want to forget it. So, also amateur, because you talk about dressing up as a homeless person or dress up as the pizza guy. You're also an amateur actor.
You are all the time. Is there a specific story you're thinking of? Because you really.
I was thinking movies.
Movies. I need another clue. I'm sorry.
I thought you played some extras or you were in some films.
Before, when I was in corrections, I was.
Oh, that was in corrections.
Term of Endearment was being filmed at the campus at University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and they asked for extras, and I got to be an extra in a couple of scenes in that movie. and Deborah Winger was the star. And on one particular scene, she's walking up to the steps to confront her husband who's having an affair in the baby stroller, but the staff are bringing her. They had to wait for the clouds to pass, and so with the lights, it just had to be right. So I'm spending hours standing next to Deborah Winger. She's so drunk that it's the F word coming out of her mouth.
Oh my goodness.
And all she can do is, I hate this heat, I hate Nebraska, I hate blah, blah, blah. She's dating our governor at the time. And I'm trying to make small talk. What do you say to a drunk movie star? And they just bring her over another Coke can. I don't know what was in it, vodka or something. So she's so drunk, she falls into the baby carriage, and I have to lean down and lift her out. And then it goes through an emotional cycle, and the director has to come over and calm it down. And wow. So that was, was my,
that's your acting career.
That was my only acting career. But in undercover, you're all acting. So, and Vice unit, when we were in narcotics, would take us and use us all the time for new faces. And we, as new investigators, would work on because they were fantastic with sniffing out a cop. You may forget that you got a handcuff key on your key ring. You call a crime by its name instead of, the slang term. And so you're always trying to work on your acting in undercover. And I think I did 50 undercover buys, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot. Enjoyed doing them, and our county attorney required multiple buys on people before they would charge. So,
any that are appropriate, and you're allowed to talk, or we can find some other stories.
That they were all pretty unique. One was done during an ice storm that took us from the projects, and you really couldn't drive on the road more than a few miles an hour. And I was buying crack cocaine, and the person then turned to me and asked if I wanted to have sex, and I male, and I don't bat on that team. So I was trying to think, I wanted to preserve for another buy, but I didn't see a way out of this because he wasn't asking if you got my meaning. And so we had to,
it's like, I just want the drugs.
Yeah, we had to call the ball, if you will. You're given a code word. And another time that comes to mind was we actually had a sister city in Japan. And Japan sent an officer over for a couple of months just to ride with different units and see what American policing was like. And he was with our unit, and we pulled up to a set of high-rise inner-city buildings, and you had to go up to the third floor and go knock on the door. And I went up and knocked on the door, and the neighbor came out and said, "They moved to the next building over. That's where you go by now." I'm so glad to get rid of this person.
Yeah.
So I'm telling my crew, I'm coming out the front door. They're parked right out front. Yeah. I'm coming out the front door. I'm going to go in the next building. Well, our equipment was so crappy back then that they didn't hear hardly any of it. And thank God I had one officer that kind of followed me, and he stood in the stairwell. He saw them move. But when I get in the room and I go to make the buy, they lock the door. And these are efficiency apartments. It's the kitchen, is the bedroom, is the living room with one little bathroom area. And there's 3 of them. And they pulled a crack pipe out and said, "Smoke." Sold me first, but then said I had to smoke. And so the code word was snowplow. You always try to pick a word that you won't bring up in a sentence. And so I said, "The snowplows come by?" "Yeah, they came by today." "Well, the snowplows came in my neighborhood. We needed more snowplows."
Hint.
So, any of you guys ever drive a snowplow before? Man, what's up with all the talk of snowplows? Am I talking about snowplows too much? What's going on? My team is in the building next door kicking in the door to the apartment.
Oh my
They
goodness.
think I'm
And you're abracadabra in the other room.
and I'm
Yeah.
and I'm snow plowing the hell out of the thing. I finally have to draw my weapon, and I mean, with my craziest looking eyes, hold everyone at gunpoint until I could figure out how to get someone in. Finally, the officer was on the staircase, got everyone's attention to come into that door. And I mean,
That must have felt like eternity.
it did. I thought I was in there for 2 weeks, by myself, and my heart probably, hit a new record.
And you took a couple of years off your life.
Oh man! But I'll never forget the Japanese officer. It really shows you how close law enforcement is. And in his broken English, Betty, I'm so upset for you. I'm so scared. I didn't know what to do.
Wow, you gave him
because it was
American law enforcement, right? Yeah.
But you also see how quickly something can go sideways.
Yeah.
I think the first part of the story, it almost reminds me of like a legitimate business. When you see like the science is like, sorry, we closed and moved to a new location.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, the crack house moved to the next one over.
Yeah.
Just kind of over there.
That's it. But the team didn't hear it. So
wow. Wow. Okay.
So from robbery, it's time for another promotion. So I let's see. I may have this. The time has gone by. It's been 18 years, 19 years now since I retired. Other units would be crime analysis. I went back to the street for a while at midnights as soon as I was promoted, and then almost immediately put back into criminal investigation. And so crime analysis was like an eye rolling. I thought, oh my God, I'm being punished. Why? But I learned so much in crime analysis. It was a fascinating unit. It was in its infancy. And about the time I really got comfortable and loved being there, I got moved out again.
Time to go.
The captain calls me up and says, Barry, buddy, we really weren't buddies. I knew this wasn't good.
That's the code word.
And he
buddy.
said, well, the so-and-so that was, the lieutenant there, he got promoted and that position's open. And so we want you to report to Special Victims Unit starting Monday.
Okay.
It's like, oh, I'm flattered, Cap. I'm really flattered. And so I came up with this. It says, but anyone that hurts a child, I think I'd kill him. He says, that's the spirit. I'm not asking. Pack your
You
stuff.
tried to play the system.
Pack your stuff and be there Monday. And Omaha, sadly, is a big enough department that you don't know everyone. And I remember my first walking through the door, and I met by an officer with my box of goodies, and he said, "LT, I got a 19-month-old with 19 fractures, and I want to know what you want to do." And I thought, oh my God, I wanted to turn around and walk out. And that was the job that grabbed my heart. That was the one that hooked me. And so we had 2 domestic violence units, a daytime unit, an afternoon unit. There was a special victims unit. So child abuse and neglect. It was a day shift, night shift. Had a domestic violence unit, and then there was missing persons with that. And then we did all adult sexual assaults. So it was a crazy busy unit, and the volume was off the tracks. And there were 18 children, dead children, my first year. And I remember either going to the scene or going to the morgue to seal that. And that's what I call a soul grabber, because that one doesn't let go. Yeah. And so then next year was about as bad. And we worked out of a child advocacy center. And that was a very different experience too. So you had health and human services people, you had treatment people, and you had the advocacy people there. And again, it was a multidisciplinary approach, and their thought was you interview one child one time by one person. And I didn't see the importance of that in my early days, but I would see it immediately afterwards. And it was so unique that the Pew Research Center actually asked us to come and present on that model. So I had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., and be a part of that multidisciplinary team that reported on that stuff.
A
So
lot of groundbreaking information, research,
Yep.
Impact decisions and how police would investigate and work. So
yeah,
that's great.
and it's crazy the assignments that you think you hated, that you fell in love with, they end up becoming your passion.
Yeah.
So follow up toward the end of my career was back downtown for North investigations, and then I ended my career at Major Crimes Unit, and got recruited with Health and Human Services to be the administrator for the Greater Omaha area of their social services. So that was a 4-year stint, and that's where all the gray hair came. And I ended up going back into law enforcement through RIS, through MOCIC about 8 years ago. And I hope this is the place I can finally retire from.
Yeah.
I love it here.
You have worked a plethora of assignments. I mean, from vice and narcotics to, bank robbery, sexual assaults, the children. I mean, just everything.
Ran the gambit.
Yeah, you really did. And your perspective changed along the way, right? I've heard it in your voice. You come into the unit and then your eyes open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like I was 24 when I became a police officer. As a young officer, I had a hammer and everything was a nail.
Yeah.
You just hit
right.
arrest, ticket. That in the early days seemed important to me, and it wasn't. And today, if I could do it over again, and go back in, at my age now, I doubt I'd write a ticket. I doubt I'd need a book. I do warning book. You get much more with that, and I would have the resource guide. Okay, so you're hungry. Let's go get you some food. The thing about police officers, and I say this a lot because no matter how tough and rough they are, they're also social workers inside. They don't know it, but they're helping people. A lot of the calls are, help someone get out of the bathtub. Help a crying child. We don't know what's wrong. And compassion. And when you see the compassion of police officers, you realize to be a police officer, you have to have a kind of a birth defect, and that is too big of a heart to do it right. And I've seen it in so many of our officers.
Another issue in law enforcement is when things happen, administrations, society, they want a metric, right? How do we measure this?
Yes.
It's like, well, there's a problem with speeding. Okay, well, we have to measure that with speeding tickets. Like, maybe not necessarily.
It's the only way we know.
It's the data you don't see, the things that we can't measure that how we actually know we're making an impact.
You're right. So just putting a car there and seeing people slow down, it is part of it. Or doing a PSA. Stands for
public
safety announcement. That, hey, we're going to be running a lot of radar in the city this week. Maybe we're running once. But watch the speeds and then see the people slow down, because speeding is the problem. It's the accidents. And so monitoring that in different ways.
Or wanting something actionable, right? I need something done now. It's like, well, no, I want to do something that may not be measurable now, but a year from now, it's going to make a huge impact.
Yeah, right. And then how helpless you feel as an officer or a deputy, a trooper, that you have what you're going to do is making no impact. Wrong. So wrong. More impact is made by the line officers than any command officer. They're the heartbeat of every agency. And the best police work in my career happened at that first level. My most lessons, the most fun I had, the best relationships, the closest I got to the community was all done at that one-on-one level.
And you mentioned giving advice to your younger self, but let me twist that around. It's pretty much the same answer, but because we hear a lot of young officers, when they introduce themselves, they'll always say, I'm just patrol. We hear that a lot, just patrol.
Yeah.
So, telling younger Barry, telling a young officer who's interested in a career in law enforcement, can you go a little bit more on that?
Yeah. I love that question because one of the honors that I had was to get to speak to the recruits that were going out on their last day. In other words, kind of everything's It's like the last day of school, and I got them that last day. I did my thesis on community policing and how you talk to people. And uh, I would say to young me going out again that if you will treat people with compassion, you'll always be right. Even if you have to put hands on somebody to make an arrest or stop a fight, compassion, compassion, compassion. That remember that oxymoron I said, kill them with kindness. In other words, go past the point. And you see that. I just want to share a story with you. Something I saw the other day. I don't know what jurisdiction it was, but I saw it on YouTube. But there's a trooper that got out to clean his windows on his patrol car, and a citizen stopped by, and she said, "Is everything okay, trooper? Just washing my windows. Can I wash yours?" Third car comes by, same thing. Is everything okay here? Absolutely. Just washing windows. Can I wash your windows? That incident made such an impact, I bet, on those three people that they'll never forget it. When we as police officers or deputies or troopers get a call to someone who's never had to have the police at their residence, they've never been stopped before, they've never been in an accident, they've never had mom dying at home in front of them, the impact that we're going to make on them will last a lifetime. They'll not remember our name. They'll probably not remember our face. They'll remember the uniform that was in there and how they were treated.
Yeah.
That would be my advice.
It's powerful. It might be a way to end there. Barry, it's always a pleasure to be around you. You mentioned big heart. You have one of the biggest hearts. Just an amazing individual.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I got it through the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate that.
And we may not let you retire.
Trying to stop me.
All right. With that, we'll close it out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.